If you walk up to someone on the street and ask them like what their biggest financial asset is, you are almost guaranteed to get one of two
Oh,
answers.
totally. It's always the same.
Right. They'll either point to the house they just bought, or they'll pull out their phone, open up a brokerage app, and show you their retirement portfolio. We just always default to something highly visible.
Yeah, something with a very clear tracked market value.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes complete sense why we do that. We're culturally conditioned to look at physical property or, dedicated investment accounts when we think about wealth building.
Because they're tangible.
Exactly. You can log in and see a number go up or down,
Hmm.
but that conditioning creates a massive blind spot for most of us.
Which brings us to the core of today's deep dive. Because when you actually look at the math over a lifetime, you realize we are all completely ignoring this massive invisible asset sitting right in front of us, our day jobs.
It's so true.
Think about it. If you make, say, $80,000 a year over a 40-year career, that is over $3 million flowing through your hands. Your career trajectory is, frankly, going to generate infinitely more wealth than your initial investment portfolio ever could.
And yet, how many people actively manage that asset? The vast majority of people treat their career like the weather.
Like the weather.
Yeah, like it's just something that happens to them. They accept the starting salary. They nod along to the standard 3% cost of living raise, and they just passively accept the geographic constraints of their office building.
Well, today we are changing that forecast. We're pulling from this really eye-opening guide on career optimization from the team over at ChooseFi. And the mission for you listening today is to completely reframe how you view your 9 to 5.
Right, and to be clear, we are not talking about hustle culture here.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. No one's saying work 100 hours a week until you burn out. We're looking at a mathematical framework for taking control. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because according to this source, just a handful of strategic, calculated moves can literally add hundreds of thousands of dollars to your lifetime earnings.
And that shift in mindset from passive employee to active optimizer is the entire game. And it starts with the absolute lowest hanging fruit, which ironically is also the thing that terrifies people the most.
The initial salary negotiation.
Exactly, the initial negotiation. The guide points out this staggering statistic. People routinely leave anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 on the table, simply by accepting an initial job offer as is.
Just by saying thank you and signing the paperwork.
Literally just signing it without a second thought.
I mean, I think we've all been guilty of that at some point, You're just relieved to get the job, but 5 to 15 grand, that's not just a one-time bonus.
No, not at all.
If you leave 10 grand on the table at age 25, you're missing out on that base money, plus the compounding percentage raises on that money for decades.
You're effectively giving your employer a massive lifetime discount on your services.
Yeah.
But the psychological hurdle here is that people view negotiation as a confrontation. They picture this like tense boardroom standoff.
Right, like something out of a movie.
Exactly. But the guide outlines a preparation phase that completely removes the emotion from it. You don't just walk in and ask for more money because you feel like you deserve it. You need data.
Okay, so what kind of data are we talking about?
They recommend polling from at least 3 distinct sources. So
Right.
places like Glassdoor, LinkedIn Salary, or levels.ifii.
Yeah.
That way you know exactly what the market rate is for your specific title in your specific city.
Oh, I see. So you're building a case.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's like a lawyer building a bulletproof argument before they ever step foot in a courtroom. You aren't a teenager walking into the kitchen asking your parents for a bump in your allowance. You are a professional presenting undeniable market-backed evidence.
That's a perfect analogy. And they even suggest building a one-page brag sheet to go along with it.
Wait, a brag sheet? That sounds a little arrogant, doesn't it?
It sounds like it, but it's crucial. It's just a concise summary of 5 to 7 specific accomplishments from your recent work.
Eh.
But the trick is, this is important, they must have a dollar value impact attached to them.
So, no vague statements.
Right. You don't say, I improved our software. You say, I implemented a new protocol that reduced server costs by 22%, saving the company $40,000 annually.
Okay, let me push back on this whole framework for a second, because I hear you on the market data and the metrics. But what if I just live in a really expensive city? Or, my rent just went up drastically, or I have high personal expenses. Shouldn't I mention to HR that I literally need more money to survive in this economy?
I mean, it feels like a very human angle to play.
Right.
It's a very human instinct, sure, but bringing up your personal expenses is actually one of the biggest mistakes you can make.
Really?
Yeah. The source is absolutely explicit about this. Negotiations must always focus on the value you deliver to the company, never the cost of your lifestyle. Think of it from the company's perspective.
Okay.
They are paying for the revenue or the efficiency you generate. They aren't running a charity to subsidize your high rent. If you make it about your needs, you lose all your leverage.
Ouch. I mean, that is a hard truth, but from a pure business standpoint, it tracks. So, how do we actually deliver this? Let's talk scripts, because the tone here seems like walking a tightrope.
The tone is everything. You lead with gratitude, you lean heavily on your researched facts, and you never ever give an ultimatum or bluff with a fake counteroffer.
No bluffing, got it.
The guide provides a brilliantly simple script. You basically say, I am incredibly excited about this role, and I really want to work here.
Okay, starting positive?
Right. Then you pivot. You say, however, based on my track record of doing X and Y, and the market data I pulled for this position, I believe a base salary of Z would better reflect the value I'm bringing to the team.
Wow. It's respectful, it's firm, and it's entirely data-driven. You're making it about the market, not your ego.
Exactly.
But let's play out the worst-case scenario. You do all the prep, you nail the script, and the hiring manager or your boss just looks at you and says, look, we'd love to, but we just don't have the budget right now. The answer is no.
Which happens a lot.
Right. And usually that's where the employee just deflates and the conversation ends.
Which is exactly why the guide includes a pivot script for the no. And honestly, it's a piece of psychological brilliance.
Oh, I love a good pivot. What is it?
If they say the budget isn't there, you reply with, I appreciate you sharing that context.
Yeah.
If we can't reach that number right now, what specific goals or milestones would I need to hit to get there within the next 6 months?
Oh, that is so good.
Isn't it?
Because you're trapping them in the best possible way. You're saying, okay, you won't pay me this today, so tell me exactly what hoops I need to jump through to make you pay me this in 180 days.
Exactly. You're forcing them to create a roadmap for your raise. And more importantly, you get that roadmap in writing. It turns a definitive no into a not yet. But here is the exact path.
But here's the unfortunate reality. Even if you master that script, let's say you're a rock star, you hit all the 6-month goals, and you're the best advocate for yourself in the world, you were still eventually going to hit a wall.
Yeah, that's the hard truth of corporate structure.
Right, because, as the source points out, internal company raises are often strictly capped by human resources. You might get 3%, maybe 5% if you walk on water. So, what do you do when your own company mathematically limits your growth?
You really have to understand the rigid environment of corporate salary bands. Your direct manager might love you. They might think you are the most vital person on the team. But HR has a spreadsheet that dictates your role, maxes out at a 3% bump this year. Period.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, because the guide introduces the antidote to that 3% cap. They call it strategic switching. And the math they lay out is honestly mind-blowing.
It really is.
Let's look at the classic path first. Let's say you are ultra loyal. You stay at the exact same company for 10 years, getting that standard solid 3% annual raise. Your final salary after a decade is about $80,500.
Okay.
And over those 10 years, your total cumulative earnings, $689,000.
I mean, it sounds like a stable, respectable path until you look at the alternative.
Right. The alternative is 10 years where you execute 3 strategic job switches. You move companies every few years, and because you're negotiating external offers, you get a 15% jump each time you switch.
The jumps are huge.
Huge. After 10 years, your final salary isn't $80,000, it's $121,500. And your total cumulative earnings, $924,000.
That is incredible.
That is a $235,000 difference starting from the exact same baseline.
$235,000. Think about what that buys you in life. That is the cost of absolute loyalty.
Wow.
Your reward for staying put is missing out on nearly $250,000. The single most effective way to get a 10 to 20% raise is by changing companies, simply because the biggest compensation jumps happen during role changes, not within them. You're basically getting a new market valuation every time you switch.
Okay, but let's talk about the optics of this. Doesn't jumping ship every 2 to 3 years look terrible on a resume?
It's a common fear.
I feel like hiring managers used to actively throw out resumes if they smelled a job hopper. If I interview someone who has had 4 jobs in 8 years, I'm going to assume they're a mercenary who will leave me the second they get a better offer.
That's a valid concern. But the stigma around tenure has shifted dramatically, especially in high-leverage fields like tech, finance, and marketing. A decade ago, yeah, staying 5 years was the minimum.
Right.
Today, in many industries, staying in the same role for more than 3 years without a promotion actually signals stagnation. But the key word in the guide's strategy is strategic switching.
Strategic. Got it.
Yeah, you don't just quit after 8 months because you're bored.
Yeah.
The sweet spot is usually 18 to 36 months.
So how do you frame that in an interview without sounding like you're just chasing a paycheck?
You never make it about the money in the interview. When they ask why you're looking to move, you say, I've achieved everything I set out to do in my current role, I've delivered X results, and now I'm looking for a larger challenge with a company whose mission aligns with Y.
Oh, smooth.
Very. You frame the switch as a quest for growth. And the guide gives specific triggers for when to actually pull this ripcord.
Like what?
You switch when you find yourself doing work 1 or 2 levels above your title without the matching pay. You switch when you know your internal raises are strictly capped. Or you switch when the market demand for your specific skills has suddenly spiked.
So instead of staying put for 10 years and getting a sad company pizza party as a thank you, you leave and secure $250,000 in extra lifetime earnings.
Pretty much.
It's brutal, but it's the reality of the market. But wait, we're making a huge assumption here. You can't just walk into a new company, demand a 15% premium, and expect them to hand it over just because you read a deep dive on strategic switching.
No, definitely not.
You have to actually be worth that premium. You need undeniable leverage.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the engine behind this entire framework, career capital.
Career capital.
Yeah. Career capital is the collection of rare and valuable skills that you actively build over time. It's the leverage you use to command those higher salaries. The framework breaks career capital down into 4 distinct pillars.
Let's walk through them.
The first pillar is rare skills. The scarcer your skill set, the more negotiating power you have.
Makes sense.
The second is network depth. This one is critical because the data shows roughly 70% of jobs are filled through networking, not through cold applications on a job board.
70%, that is wild.
It's a massive majority.
But it makes sense. If I'm hiring, I'm way more likely to trust a recommendation from someone I know than a random PDF in a stack of 400 resumes.
Exactly. It's about de-risking the hire for the manager.
What are the other 2?
The third pillar is your track record. Those documented dollar value results we talked about for your brag sheet. And the fourth pillar is reputation, becoming the undeniable go-to person in your specific domain.
I really want to zoom in on that first pillar, rare skills.
Yeah.
Because this is where the guide dives into the ROI, the return on investment of upskilling. And they make a great point, right? Not all skills are created equal.
No, they are not.
You want skills with incredibly high market demand and relatively low supply. And the math they provide on the return for learning these specific skills is just, it's almost absurd.
It really is. Let's look at artificial intelligence and machine learning fundamentals, for example. The guide estimates taking a robust certified course in this might cost you between $500 and $3,000.
Okay, so a decent chunk of change.
Yeah, and it takes maybe 6 to 12 months of nights and weekends.
Some sacrifice weekends for sure.
Right, but look at the payout. The market currently rewards those AI fundamentals with a salary premium of up to $50,000 annually.
Wait, $50,000 a year?
Annually. You spend maybe $1,000 once, and you get a $50,000 return every single year. You cannot find a 50-to-1 return anywhere in the traditional stock market.
You really can't. That is nuts. And if AI sounds too intimidating, they offer other examples, like cloud computing learning, Amazon Web Services, or Microsoft Azure. That costs maybe $300 to $1,000 to learn, and it yields a $20,000 to $40,000 salary premium.
It's massive.
Even something as foundational as data analysis in SQL. You can learn SQL online for under $500. Honestly, you can probably learn it for free on YouTube. And having that on your resume yields a $10,000 to $25,000 bump.
But here's the crucial nuance, the real pro tip from the guide. You don't just pick a high-paying skill out of a hat.
What do you mean?
The best skill to learn is the one that naturally compounds with your existing expertise. For example, A software developer who takes the time to learn cloud computing architecture is exponentially more valuable to a company than someone starting entirely from scratch trying to become a cloud engineer.
Oh, I see. It is exactly like the concept of compound interest in investing. You aren't opening a brand new account with a zero balance. You are stacking a powerful multiplier onto your existing principal balance. If you are a mid-level marketing manager and you spend a few months learning SQL, you don't suddenly apply for junior data analyst jobs. You stay in marketing, but you are suddenly a data-driven marketing unicorn.
Yes, you become the
You
unicorn.
don't have to wait 3 weeks for the IT department to pull customer metrics for you. You just query the database yourself, optimize the campaign, and generate revenue instantly. That is why they pay you $20,000 more.
It's a perfect example. You've created a rare intersection of skills. So I would challenge everyone listening to actively consider this today. What is the one low-cost, high-return skill that seamlessly stacks onto your current job? What credential acts as a multiplier for the knowledge you already possess?
So, what does this all mean when we put the pieces together? Let's track the journey so far. You've negotiated perfectly and grabbed that initial 15 grand off the table.
Yeah.
You've dodged the loyalty penalty by switching jobs strategically when you hit internal HR caps.
Yep.
You've stacked your rare skills like SQL or cloud computing to secure a top-tier premium salary. You are crushing it. But it turns out there is a final boss level to this framework.
The final boss level. I love that.
A way to make that exact same salary stretch dramatically further without working a single extra hour.
Yes. In financial independence circles, they refer to this as the ultimate cheat code.
Geographic arbitrage.
It's a very academic-sounding term, but
But your rent for a tiny apartment is $3,500 a month. At the end of the year, your raw savings potential, just your salary minus your rent, is roughly $45,000.
which is a very solid number. Most people would be thrilled with that. But look what happens when you apply the arbitrage cheat code.
Scenario 2. You leverage your rare skills to take that job remote.
Yeah.
Now, maybe the company adjusts your pay down slightly because you're leaving a high-cost area. So your salary drops to $140,000.
Okay, a 10 grand cut.
Right. But you move to a mid-tier city like Austin or Denver, where rent for a much nicer place is maybe $1,800 a month. Suddenly, your annual savings potential jumps from 45 grand to $65,000.
And we can push the decoupling even further.
Scenario 3. You move to a place like Raleigh, North Carolina, or Boise, Idaho. You take an even bigger pay cut on paper. Your company drops your salary to $135,000.
Which, to your ego, that stings a little.
It does. But your rent drops to $1,400 a month. Your annual savings potential, $72,000. You literally took a $15,000 pay cut on paper. But because of the massive collapse in your housing costs, you end up putting $27,000 more into your bank account every single year.
The psychology of that is so hard for people to grasp because we are wired to chase the highest top-line revenue.
What big number?
Exactly. We want to brag about the $150,000 salary, but wealth isn't what you make. It's what you keep.
Absolutely.
This raises a vital question for anyone listening who does a job that can be executed from a laptop. Are you currently paying a massive premium, tens of thousands of dollars a year, just for the prestige of living in a megacity that your job no longer requires you to be in?
It really is hacking the matrix. If your career capital is strong enough to demand remote flexibility, you capture the entire margin between high-tier compensation and mid-tier living expenses. You keep the profits of your labor instead of handing them over to a landlord in Manhattan or the Bay Area.
And it all connects back to the very first point we discussed. You are optimizing the asset. You are treating your career with the same ruthlessness and strategy that a fund manager treats a stock portfolio.
So let's bring this all home. We've covered a massive amount of ground today on how to completely reconstruct your financial trajectory. We talked about grabbing that hidden $5,000 to $15,000 left on the negotiation table by bringing market data and a brag sheet to your boss.
Huge first step.
We learned how to dodge the $250,000 loyalty penalty by strategically switching roles when we outgrow our titles. We broke down the absurd ROI of stacking multiplier skills like AI or SQL onto your current expertise. And finally, we looked at how remote work and geographic arbitrage let you actually keep the lion's share of that wealth by untethering your paycheck from an expensive zip code.
It is an incredibly powerful toolkit.
Hmm.
But having a theoretical understanding of geographic arbitrage or, the 6-month pivot script does absolutely nothing for your net worth.
Very
Knowledge is only valuable when it is applied. So, I highly encourage you to pick just one lever from this Choosify framework today. Just one.
Start small.
Yeah. Maybe you sit down for 20 minutes after this and draft your brag sheet for the last 6 months. Maybe you spend your lunch break researching a cloud computing course that stacks with your current role. Or maybe you just check the salary bands for your title on levels.fi to see if you're underpaid. Choose one action and take control of the asset.
Turn the invisible asset into a highly visible return. I love that. And to close us out, I want to leave you with a thought on one of those pillars of career capital we touched on earlier, reputation.
Oh, that's a good one.
The source noted that your professional reputation is a form of capital that compounds silently. Unlike your 401k, where you can log in and see the ticker go up or down, your reputation is building or shrinking without any push notifications.
It truly is the ultimate invisible asset. It precedes you into every interview and every promotion discussion.
Exactly. So here's my question for you to mull over today as you get back to your life. If your reputation is compounding silently right now, what is it saying about you when you aren't in the room? Is it building the career capital you actually need to command that next 15% bump? Or